Hey guys, I got this lovely American Goldfinch that I photographed this morning. I was specifically set up to shoot this sucker backlit, and I had to kind of stalk through the field to get there, and finally got him up against that dark background. So, start out with going just a little bit lighter, definitely warmer on the white balance. The camera picked kind of too cool of a white balance. Bring the shadows up, blacks back down, maybe somewhere in that ballpark, and then I'm just gonna throw a graduated adjustment on here, darken that bottom up, kind of really rich in that. And then maybe a little bit warmer overall. Yeah, something like that. And let's crop. I just want to get rid of, actually, kind of like the composition. I just don't like that flower and that one. So I'll probably get rid of them because I kind of like that one. Maybe I'll just get rid of that one too. There we go. We'll just crop it something like, yeah, we'll go with that, and then I'll just remove that. All right, into Photoshop. All right, start with a clone layer. As always, I'm just gonna wait for the computer to catch up here. Just gonna clone this guy out on the side, and then I'll get rid of this really dark, rather obnoxious one on the right. And to start out with, it kind of ended up making a pattern there just to get rid of it. But now I'll go in and kind of blend things around, make it a little bit smoother, sample from some different areas. And there's something like that. Now it's a little bit too bright in that corner, I would say. So I'll throw a curves adjustment layer on and then just kind of darken that corner back down a little bit so your eye doesn't go to it quite as much. And then I also want to get rid of this really bright spot back there. And I don't know if I want to get rid of it entirely or just kind of reduce it significantly to something like that. Same thing over here. Just kind of reduce those real bright spots back there. And then maybe we'll ditch this one that's kind of weirdly clipped down there. There we go, that kind of works for me. Last thing I want to get rid of is this tall stem that was sticking up back there. I really had to work around that one quite a bit when shooting. Where I was initially lined up, that was right behind the bird. So I had to kind of, like I said, stalk around to try and get rid of that because it was really obnoxious in the background there. But I was able to place it over on the side and kind of get rid of it there, which is helpful. So maybe something like that. And again, I kind of made it a little bit lighter than it originally was. So I'll just come back in with that burn layer and kind of darken that corner back down. All right. Let me darken this just a little bit more while I'm on this burn layer. Just these really light spots, I want to kind of make them less obvious. And now we'll use a dodge layer. Well, actually, I'll just use a brand new curves layer because I want to bring out some more detail on this bird. Get this guy showing a little bit better. With all these seeds hanging out of his beak there, which is pretty cool. So now I'm just going to take my sweet time and cut this bird out with a layer mask. So if you want to fast forward, don't feel like watching the whole thing, don't blame you one bit. But it usually doesn't take that long. Just kind of do a simple rough outline of the whole thing. Well, I shouldn't say rough. I guess it's precise outline of the bird, all the feathers there. You can see a lot of times I overlap. And the reason is I actually find it quicker to just keep the larger brush that I have, overlap it, and then kind of paint it back versus trying to change the brush size and getting more precise with it like that. So, all right, there we go. That should pretty much do that. Excellent. And now we have the bird selected, so I will save that selection to use again in the future. And then let's adjust this a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to the curve there and then really brighten up that bird. Also, the top of that bird is getting a little bit too green, so let's bring some magenta in there. We'll get rid of that, load that selection back in, and then just paint inside that selection, especially on the top of the bird. I noticed there's a lot of green there. And then I want to darken everything else in the background. Whoops. So let's invert that selection with another curves layer here. And maybe we'll take the black's really dark on that. That might be too much because the bird was starting to look faded. Now I'll put one on the whole thing to really kind of bring the contrast back on the bird and the background. And now the problem is all these dark thistle pods there are getting a little bit too dark for my taste. So I'm going to actually try and select them out, just all those darker areas. Let's see if I can get those selected. Yeah, that should do the trick. I'll hide that selection, then I'll come back in and paint out all that darkening that I did on those couple of layers. This one specifically, I think this is the one. Yep. Then I'm going to deselect so I can just manually paint in these things here. I just don't want them to be quite as contrasty to kind of steal your eye away, if that makes any sense. I guess that one was really dark to begin with, but these are kind of coming back, which is nice. And then I really want to enhance the purple that exists here. So I'm just going to lighten those up. I really wish he would have landed on one that was purple, but instead he went on one of these closed ones here. And then I do want to maybe just brighten the face up a little bit there, and then I'll throw another adjustment on to really pop the catch light in the eye, and now I'll shape it a little bit better. And then go back in with, let's see what layer, there we go. It's kind of blacken out the bottom of the eye and the cap there, because I don't want these areas to kind of wash out and get faded from all that backlight flare that I was dealing with on the lens. And then back to one of these dodge layers, and I'll just really kind of enhance the beak so that stands out. And I think I'm pretty done there. I think overall I'm a little darker than I want to be on this, so now I'll just kind of brighten the whole thing up, and I'm pretty happy with that. That looks pretty good to me. So from before to after. So you can see how the bird stands out way more. I helped to kind of mitigate some of that heavy darkening in the background, or I'm sorry, the flare, that kind of weak contrast in the background. And my top corner did get a little bit too dark here, so I'm going to reduce that darkening effect that I had painted into that one area on a couple of these layers, just so it's not quite as solid black and dark and heavy on that side and up there. But there we go. All right, so let me get back into Photoshop here, or I'm sorry, get back into Lightroom. All right, so I already reset the original raw file, and as soon as the computer catches up here, there we go. You can see the before and after on this. So pretty significant change. There's my before, heavily backlit image. After. That bird's standing out a lot more. The warm tones, in my opinion, are a lot more pleasing, which is more of what it looked like to my eye. All this field down here was just glowing this kind of golden brown, but the camera just chose a really cool white balance. And then now the bird stands out. You can actually see his eye as well, whereas the eye just kind of disappears there, but that detail was there. And so I kind of knew that when I was shooting this. In fact, I underexposed on purpose. I went down 2/3 of a stop with the exposure compensation because I didn't want to blow out any of these highlights around and these white things in the back. So I knew just having a darker exposure like that would be able to pop right back up. And that's the finished shot. This is one of my favorite styles of lighting to shoot. I love shooting this backlit stuff, especially on songbirds and things that will glow in the fields like this. And I'm really happy with that. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it always.